Welcome to Cardium, the podcast that gets to the heart of travel healthcare and asks, what's your why? With each episode, we explore the topics and issues that impact healthcare professionals in the fields of nursing and allied health. Now, here are your hosts, Sunny and Matt from RES Medical.
How are you today, Sunny?
I'm good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing really well, really well. I'm really excited about our podcast today. I think we're going to reach out and touch some people with the folks we have coming on board. I'm really super excited about it.
I agree. We have a wide variety of experience and people today.
We've got some folks out there that have done some amazing things and some folks out there that are going to do amazing things in their career. So I'm really excited about it. You're a reader. I know you are.
Yes,
I've known you for
a
long time, and I know you love Simon Sinek.
I do.
Yeah. Have you read his book, Start With Why?
Yes.
Well, you know this because you know everything, I think.
I don't.
Simon writes 2 ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. What does that say to you, Sunny?
Well, it's a strong statement for me to figure out how to do either, and hopefully the latter is to really define out what your why is and to determine what your purpose and your reason. And I like when he says that because, people do that. You can either manipulate someone or you hope that you inspire, because we talk about motivation all the time. And we talk about how you can motivate, but really, you really can't motivate anyone to do anything. That comes from within. But what you hope to do is inspire someone to do something. And I think that when I meet people every day and in the course of what I do, and talking to the people today that we have on the show, just listening to them, they inspire me, and it makes me want to do more with what I do. And so that's why I'm really, really excited about today.
Yeah, those are great. And I think that statement really speaks to what we're talking about today. Our first guest, I really do think, is an inspiration.
Yes.
And hopefully she inspires a lot of folks out there listening. Our first guest today is Connie Joseph, and Connie is a labor and delivery RN, and we are happy to have you aboard. Welcome aboard, Connie.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I am fine, sitting up in Vermont, enjoying the countryside.
Oh, lucky. I bet it's horrible up there, huh?
Oh, it's just awful. I mean, I walk out from my home in Louisiana, and it's like 100 degrees. The humidity's 97 on a good day, and you're soaking wet again from when you take your shower, and then here it's dry, it's cool. I brought shorts for the summer.
Oh.
I don't think they get summer till August.
Oh my gosh.
I was late on the memo, so I did bring some long pants and a jacket, but it's gorgeous. It is beautiful here.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic assignment. And I know you've done a lot of assignments in your career, but we'd like you to talk about that. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself for us and our audience?
Well, let's see. I've been in nursing. I think Florence Nightingale and I worked together years ago. I think we did. I carried the lamp. I've been in nursing since before I got out of high school. I was a candy striper. I was a nurse's aide. I was an LPN. I've been an RN for 25 years, I think.
Wow.
And I've done just about every aspect of nursing, from med-surg to surgery to, I've never really done ICU, but I've done rehab, pediatrics, and I guess my love is labor and delivery. And I love doing labor and delivery. And I've been a travel nurse for 13 years.
Is that right? 13 years.
I know. I'm old, right?
Well, you've been some places. I mean, Vermont, yes, today, but you've been some places in 13 years.
I started out in New Mexico, then I went to Texas, then Alaska, then back to Texas, Wyoming, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, North Carolina, West Virginia, Pennsylvania.
Oh my
Maine.
Gosh. What does your license list look like?
Oh, they
thank
laugh
gosh
at
for the
me
compact.
because my recruiter Richard says, "How many do you have now?" And it's like 17.
Oh my gosh!
Louisiana's not a compact state,
yeah.
So every place I traveled, I had to get a new license, and instead of letting them lapse and having to apply for them again. I've just kept them up. And funny thing, Vermont came up in the past few months, I think. And I was like, nah, should I renew? I don't know. And I was going to let some of them lapse. And I said, no, I'll renew Vermont. Well, hello, here I am. Thank God I did. But it's been awesome traveling. I mean, it's one of the best things I've ever done.
Wow. That 13 years of traveling and you still have a smile on your face. You're loving it. That is just a great story. All the places you've been, people
Yes.
you've met, patients that you've met. I mean, just that you've just done so many things. That's so great.
I have a patient that I delivered 8 years ago, I think it is. And we just sort of bonded while I was taking care of her and just kept in contact all the years. She would send me pictures of her little girl and Christmas cards and stuff like that. And this year, when I came up from Louisiana, I stopped and we got to see each other.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And I hugged the little girl and I said, this is the first time I've held you since the day you were born.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
And it was awesome. It was so good. And they're such a great couple. And I mean, I've met patients all over the place. Some of them I still keep in contact with, like her. Some of the nurses I've worked with in Maine, we still talk. All over the place. I've got friends all over the country, and we just sort of stay in touch.
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
amazing. Did you always want to know that you wanted to be a nurse?
It's like having blonde hair and blue eyes. It's who I am.
Yeah.
And I was a little girl giving cough syrup to my dolls. I was little, like 2 or so. I've always been a nurse. And it's just something I've always been. It's me. It's who I am. And nursing's not a part of me. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fabric for sure. You can tell. People don't travel for 13 years unless they're truly passionate about it. And as we thought, pretty darn inspiring. So yeah, that's great. Connie, we're gonna ask your why in a little bit. And so we don't want you to tell us. So without telling us your why, if you just look back at your career, whether traveling or your career as an RN, or even maybe back to the Candy Striper days, if you can think back. What are some of the moments that you would say truly shaped your why?
One of my supervisors that I had, I was a nurse's aide, and I worked the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift. And this woman was 4'11" of power and spunk, and that was back in the days when nurses wore the white stockings and the leather shoes and the dresses, and we could hear her coming down the hall. I mean, click, 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 click. We were like, oh my God, she's coming. And everybody would straighten up and everything. But she would take and put me places that I was so scared to be at, just doing different things. And she'd always say, you can do it. If you have a question, ask. Someone's going to be there to help you. And she always told me, she said, I see the good in you. I see how good of a nurse you are. You're an inspiration. And she was actually my inspiration. She was my mentor. She taught me to be the kind of nurse I am, to not give up and not give up on nursing.
Do you remember her name, Connie?
Oh, yeah, Gertrude Coates.
Gertrude. Well, maybe Gertrude will be listening.
No, she passed away a few years ago, but she was like my second mom. I always called her Miss Coates. Professional. She was my supervisor, and I always called her Miss Coates. Until the end, I started calling her Gert. But she was at my graduation from nursing school.
Wow.
That's amazing.
She was there to support me.
That's fantastic.
She is my mentor.
Connie, as a traveler, you're around different things, but you talk about your purpose as a nurse and how strongly that's been shaped by Gertrude. Would you say as a traveler that your purpose is still the same, even though the delivery of care is a little, maybe not the same. You know, it's you're still delivering care, but it's in a different platform because you're traveling.
Yeah, traveling is not so different from being a staff nurse, because I go in and I do everything that a staff nurse does,
Okay.
except get into the, being a permanent person at the facility. I don't get into the politics of a hospital,
Yeah.
and I'm able to deliver care. I'm a travel nurse at a facility because they need help. And that sort of helps me to know that I'm there for a purpose. And when I go in, I don't know, it's like I'm part of the team. Like the hospital I'm at now, I've only been there a couple of weeks, and they're like, oh, no, you're staying here with us. You're not going anywhere, Okay. And sometimes I only stay 13 weeks. Sometimes I stay 6 months. It just depends.
Yeah.
And so most places don't treat us like travelers. They want someone with experience that knows what they're doing. And you get there and they're like, with open arms, oh, thank God you're here. So it's really there's not a big difference between a traveler and a staff member as far as for work goes.
You've been so many places. And you've done so many different things, even within your field of work. How do you keep that why in front of you, and especially as a provider that's a traveler, healthcare provider that's a traveler?
It's an adventure, and I go into each place with what can I offer them and what can I do to help them, and then while I'm here, I'm going to go explore the territory. I go to places that have a specific need, and just knowing that they need me makes me want to go, makes you feel wanted. I mean, everybody wants to feel wanted.
Yeah.
And knowing that I have experience and that people actually do want me to go to work with them makes me feel better.
It's amazing.
That's great. That's great, Connie. Again, inspiring. We thought you'd be inspiring. You are, lady.
Yes,
you are.
Connie, what would you say is your most memorable moment so far in your traveling career?
Every place is new. Every state I go to is different. And I don't know. I can't tell you, because each state, each hospital is so different and so unique. And I've, like the lady that I delivered 8 years ago.
Connie, before we get to your why, because we want to ask you that before we have to let you go. Any inspiring bits of words of advice for anybody thinking about starting their traveling career?
Oh, geez. I've had people ask me, I don't know if I should do traveling. I'm not sure. It's scary when you've worked at a place for a while and you're a permanent staff at a hospital. But doing traveling is like taking a leap of faith, because you're not sure where you're going, but you have to have the faith to just step off and do it and know you're going to be fine.
Well, that's. I think that anybody would take that advice and really be able to use that. And I think that leap of faith is one that you can certainly say helped you in your career, and look at you now. So great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Connie, here's the moment where we want to ask you, what's your why?
Why? Because it's who I am. I'm a nurse through and through. I love what I do. I don't think I could be anything else.
That's a pretty darn good why.
I wish I could. I'm going to try and give a visual for our listeners right now. For those who are listening, if you could see Connie, she's got tears in her eyes and she's very emotional. And it's making me emotional because I don't think I've ever met anyone so passionate about what they do. And those are the travelers and those are the nurses that you want taking care of you. Those are the people that give all of them. Those are the people that love and care with all of their being. And those are the ones that you want your moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and children being taken care of, because you know that they do it not because it's a job, but because they want to and because they need to. And so, Connie, I just want to say on behalf of everyone who walks in a hospital door or a clinic and has the luxury of being taken care of by a nurse like you, thank you, because you were so inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today, Connie. We'll let you get back to being that inspiring nurse out there in Vermont. Hope you enjoy your assignment.
Oh, I will. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Connie.
You are amazing, Connie.
Thank you.
Talking to an RN who's been a traveler for 13 years. We're now going to talk to a healthcare professional who's not only starting his traveling career, he's starting his healthcare career. So pretty exciting.
Yes, we are actually talking with a new graduate, our recent graduate occupational therapist, Micah Thomas, who is in the middle of his second travel assignment. Micah, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Micah, tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm from Philadelphia originally. I went to Louisiana for undergrad, and I ended up there from a track scholarship, ran track and played football in high school and ended up being able to get a scholarship. So that's how I ended up down south. And, I got to travel a lot with the track team in Louisiana, and I've seen probably all parts of the United States. And that's when I kind of really realized that I like to travel. And from Louisiana, I got accepted into OT school in Alabama at Tuskegee University. And I basically relocated there, and I've been away from home for a while. So it was just going into travel therapy was probably nothing new for me, just because of how long I've been away from home and how comfortable I had got with just traveling to new places and having new experiences from one place to the other.
Did you always want to be an OT?
Well, that's a good question that you asked, because it started off as an engineer. I wanted to be an engineer coming out of high school, but my dad, he worked in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and he always pushed healthcare on me. And in the back of my mind, I always knew I would end up in healthcare some way or the other. So I got to college, and after just doing some research, I decided to go the OT route instead of engineering, which was probably predetermined to begin with. But I just ended up choosing OT, basically coming out of high school and hearing that little bug from my dad saying you should be going into healthcare instead of engineering.
That's great, Micah. We're going to ask you your why towards the end of our conversation here, but without telling us your why. As you look back at some of those experiences, maybe with your parents, what you're growing up and traveling and stuff, what are some of the key moments that you would say truly shaped your why?
That's a great question. I have a few. I think the main one is just being able to help others and just wanting to be in a profession where I really don't feel like I've worked at all. And I can truly say it's still early. I've only been practicing for a short amount of time, but I always wanted to be in a field where I always had fun, and I never feel like I was actually working hard. I was just enjoying what I did. And I can say that OT is definitely one of those things that I can agree with. I'm not working at all. I'm just enjoying every day of work as I go in. It's not hard work at all. So helping others and basically being able to enjoy what I do, that's probably the main reason why I do what I do.
Would you say as a traveler, that's a different type of platform in which to deliver healthcare? Not a lot of people get what travel healthcare is. And to keep your why in front of you, without telling us your why, would you say keeping your purpose in front of you is harder as a travel healthcare provider?
I definitely think it is harder. Not impossible, but harder. And the reason I say that is because there are challenges that you may go through as a traveler that someone in a full-time position may not have to go through. Anything from just being alone at any given time. You're mostly away from family. You're by yourself until you meet people. So just having to start over every 3 months is a challenge within itself. And then every single situation you go into it's so different. But although that is a challenge, it's also a plus because it just makes you that more resilient and that more versatile as you learn your way and you go through one assignment to the next. So it's kind of like a gift and a curse. You have challenges, but they also can turn into your successes if you handle them the right way.
It's a great positive outlook and a great way to look at that. And I understand we've spoke a little bit before, and you're getting started in your travel career, your career in general. And As you look forward, I know you did a lot of research on what you want to do, and as you look forward, Micah, in the next few years, what do you think is going to be that beacon? What do you think you're going to reach back and say, okay, it's the hard times, because not all assignments are created equal. We know that. So the hard times, what are you going to look back and say, this is why I'm out here, and I need to keep going forward, and this is important, even in the toughest of times, because let's face it, those tough assignments are probably where you're needed the most. Those patients need you the most. So what do you, in your research, what do you think you're going to reach back and say, this is why I'm out here?
Well, I like to keep in mind that every experience is a learning experience, even the harder experiences. So just going through those hard experiences, they suck while you're going through them, I will admit. But those are the experiences that when something else comes along, you look back at those experiences. You don't look at the good experiences and say, oh, yeah, it was all fun and easy. You look back at the harder ones and say, well, if I got through that, I can definitely get through this. And that's from travel to a full-time position, and even in just everyday life situations, being able to look back at the harder times. And if you can tell yourself, hey, I got through that, that was just a bump in the road, then the next thing that comes in front of you, you can get around that or get through that as well.
That's good advice. And, speaking of advice, what would you say to those that are looking at travel, especially those students that are in school right now?
It's a lot. I'll start off by saying it's a lot. I'm actually very glad that I chose travel coming right out of school. So I'll say that as well. It's a lot to get into. It's a lot of work, and it's something that you should probably do more research in without saying too much. There's just a lot of situations that you're expected to be able to handle on your own, and opposed or compared to a full-time position, you may not be able to have all the resources or references that you may need in front of you. Sometimes you have to figure out things on your own, which for me was a little overwhelming. But once again, like I said before, those hard situations that you get through, you look back at them later on in life or later on in your career, and you say, hey, if I can get through something like that, I can get through something as easy as this. So I would definitely recommend it for the stronger students coming out, or, just kind of get opinions from maybe clinical instructors or professors to see if they think you would be a good fit for it, because it's a lot to step into. It's not impossible, but definitely a lot to step into as a new grad.
Yeah, without a doubt, new grads, it's a lot to think about. I mean, it really is a lot to consider, and your profession especially. There's a lot of options out there.
Yeah.
You're starting this traveling career. You're starting your career in general. I'd like to know. I think our audience would like to know. You're 30 years in the future. What does your career look like? How long do you want to do this? What does it look like afterwards? And where do you want to end up? What's the perfect career picture for you?
I'm glad you asked me that. I believe that travel therapy is setting me up for a very good full-time position somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years. And the reason I say that is just because of how much experience I'm gaining in such a little bit of time. Every time you go to a new facility and a new setting, it's just that much more experience that you get, as opposed to being in one position for that amount of time. You probably wouldn't gain as much experience. So for me, I see myself in the next 30 years being either a rehab director or some type of facility director, and just using all the experiences I got from not only travel therapy, but also just my full-time positions in the future, and just kind of having it all culminate together and being a well-rounded practitioner as well as leader.
That's awesome, man.
That's great.
I hope you get there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're on your path. I love it.
Yeah, and
love
I can
it.
see you getting there.
Thank you.
There. What would you say is your most memorable moment so far? I know it's a short. You're starting your second assignment right now?
Yep, second assignment.
So far, what has been a memorable moment?
Let's see. I think by far my most memorable moment, and I say by far because I think about this patient probably once a week, even though I don't even see her anymore. But it was a lady. She came in. She had a stroke, and I had the privilege of working with her probably for about 85% of the time that she was there. She was at the facility for about 3 weeks, and I worked with her for about 85% of the time. And there was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of emotions, not really understanding the disease process of a stroke and, why things were the way they were. So it was just a lot of figuring out for her, and a lot of kind of confiding in not only me but also the other therapist for help and wanting to get better. But this lady, she worked so hard day in and day out, and from day one when I evaluated her, she couldn't move her right leg or right arm, and to the day that she got discharged, she actually walked out of the building, got dressed on her own, went through her morning routine, and it was so fulfilling for me, and I wasn't even the one who basically was affected by the stroke. It was her. So just being able to see how far she had came, it just was really rewarding for me, and I knew that it made her so much more happy, just the fact that she was able to regain her independence, or something that she thought that she would never be able to do again. So that was a really good experience for me.
That's a great memory, man. That's one to carry for a long time.
Yeah,
definitely.
Micah, you've been awesome, and I know you've got other things to do. You just started your assignment there, and so you've got big plans. Before we let you go, we like to ask this question, and we want to know straight from your heart, what is your why?
Well, I can give you my why for OT and then my why for travel. So my why for OT is, like I said before, just the experience of seeing someone regain that independence, and something that we take such for granted, being able to put on your shirt, being able to brush your teeth, being able to, get up out of the bed. They're just things that we do. They're novel items or novel actions that we do every day, and we just take it for granted. And being able to see someone who thought they would never do that again regain that ability, it's so rewarding for me as well as for them. So I would probably use that as my why for choosing occupational therapy. And my why for traveling, besides being able to travel the country and see all the different places and all the new experiences, I think the why for travel therapy is just the need, because a lot of the places that we end up, they're places where patients, they either don't receive occupational therapy, or it's few and far between, just because there's not enough of us to go around. So me being able to get to these areas and give skilled services to these individuals, it puts them in a position to regain independence instead of a functional decline that they may have if they went without the services. So just knowing that I'm helping someone who otherwise wouldn't receive the help is probably my why for doing travel therapy.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. That's great, Micah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you are such a great representation of the future of the field. And
Thank
I applaud you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, Sonny, Connie and Micah were great. I loved hearing their why.
They were excellent. I loved hearing their why too.
I really think that them talking about their journey and their story really hit home. And I think it will hit home with a lot of people too out there. Different story, obviously coming from a couple different places there, but I think it will make an impact out there.
I agree. Hearing two different viewpoints from different points of their career. You had someone who was new and fresh and had a new way of looking at things, but then you also had someone who was very seasoned, but still kept that passion and that new way of looking at everyone. And that was just amazing.
Well, our final guest today is Shane Ritchie, and Shane is a longtime healthcare professional, has spent quite a few years as a contract traveler. So welcome, Shane, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We know that you are on a travel assignment. We can kind of hear the birds out there. So we want to ask you, tell us about yourself.
I've been a traveler here for about 7.5 years. Started, there's my dogs going at it. Sorry about that.
No apologies. That's great.
Hey, that's the way assignments go, man. That's the way it goes.
Started travel nursing with about 10 months experience. I started out in a rural hospital in West Virginia. And we were on a PCU unit, 10-to-1 ratio.
Oh.
It was kind of brutal, but I learned a lot. And
I bet you did.
And just picked up
big ratio.
Yeah, it was. It was fun, though. It was fun. I learned a lot. It was a great experience. And my wife and I actually met in Kentucky. And she had no interest in becoming a nurse. And I was just like, hey, I think we should probably do this and start maybe doing travel nursing when we get our experience. And that's kind of what we both did. We just traveled together. And right now we're on assignment in West Virginia, which is our home state. But her home state, my home state is from Eastern Kentucky there. So
that's amazing.
But, yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Well, we like it here because of the rivers, the mountains, all the fun stuff we can do outside. So
yeah.
Love it. Well, I know as we were getting ready to talk with you today, we're on a time crunch with you because you're on the way to the beach.
Yep, on the way to the beach. And the thing about travel nursing, they usually pay for our vacations when we take them, but this one's on us.
That's appreciated, but envious. We are not on our way to the beach after this, so good for you.
Well, thank you. Like I said, though, you're more than welcome.
Thanks for the invite.
I'm already packing. Thank you so much.
All right.
So Shane, you've been an RN for a while, and people want to know. We want to know. Is this something you always wanted to do? And if not, when did you make that? When was the aha moment for you to say, you know what, I think the RN path is the path for me?
Well, no, it definitely wasn't the first thing I wanted to do. I was, I'm from the coal state here in Kentucky, and at one point I was back and forth and in and out of college for criminal justice and psychology, and then ended up working with the railroad a little bit, and then was going to get in a coal truck, and my dad's like, no, you're too smart, go back to school, do something else. There's no money in coal anymore. It's leaving. And so anyway, my wife and I had kind of talked about it and decided nursing might be the path for us, and we could get to see the world together. And so the plan from the beginning of nursing school was become a traveling nurse, and so that we could see the country and kind of do what we wanted to do together. And we've made about, I think, 7 trips cross-country driving. Now, we've taken almost every road possible from one side to the other.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
So it's pretty fun.
And what a story. Did you also scrap your way, so that you have those something to take with you, a memorabilia of some sort?
Well, we have, and I started picking up stickers everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And I put them all over my safe and toolboxes and just everything, right? So we do stickers, and we do just a lot of pictures. I mean, everywhere we go, we try to go and do a lot of the state parks and things like that. But my wife is a big hiker. I blew my knee out a couple of times, so I mean, I enjoy hiking, but she's like ready to go to the top of Mount Everest, and I'm like, I'll scale back a little, half of it maybe.
Yeah, got a mule for me.
yeah. So, but we, I don't know, we've seen a lot. We've done a lot. It's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, without telling us your why, because we want to save that for the end, when you think back, what are some of the moments that you would say truly shaped your purpose or your why?
When we get into the why, I can talk a little bit more about my childhood, and some illnesses that I'd had, and seeing things from that perspective. But when you're traveling, you get to meet people from all different cultures. There's so much diversity, especially when you're going from rural areas to San Francisco and New York and places like that, which we have worked. And it's just a lot of fun, but you meet people that have such a different viewpoint on healthcare and in life in general. And I think that the patience is the biggest drive for us. Because you get to network and you get to meet so many people from so many different walks of life. I would say, I don't know, I've got a dozen stories of things that have just solidified the fact that I'm happy that I came into this business, versus, sticking with coal or the railroad, right?
Yeah.
But not that I'm knocking them. Those are great fields, but, definitely love the nursing field.
And you guys are a pretty unique couple. I know you said that your wife was a nurse, because we were speaking the other day, and she's no longer an RN, correct?
No, sir. That's correct. She in January just finished her nurse practitioner.
That's amazing.
And began working here, and we have kind of did this journey together. Mm-hmm. We became nurses and put each other through school, and then put her through her BSN, and then she put me through mine, and then her master's, and now I've got 10 months left on mine. So it's been fun.
Now what a conversation piece to say. Not only have you been across the country several times, you got a lot of stickers to prove it, but you're also continuing your education while you're doing all that.
While traveling, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is that something that you always had set out to do? Is you weren't going to be satisfied with where your education was when you started traveling? Was your intent always to further your education even while on assignments?
No, not actually. When we first became nurses, we were like, man, we can travel nurse with two years experience. And we thought, okay, this is great, right? And you're out here seeing the country, you're making a really good career. And then, when everything started pushing towards the magnet status, mm-hmm. we thought we better get our BSN, we better get our bachelor's. And so we started that journey. And then once we got there, we were like, wait a minute, there's traveling nurse practitioner jobs.
Yeah.
We need to become nurse practitioners and become providers so that, you get to see it from a completely different perspective at that point.
Yeah.
And we've thought about maybe once we get to that provider role doing travel jobs overseas, and not that we couldn't do that as nurses. We've been offered Guam and all kinds of places, but we thought about maybe doing some mercy ships, things like that from the provider perspective. So that's one of the driving forces for why we've been able to do it. And what's given us the ability to afford a lot of that, because we pay for our school out of pocket, most of it is travel nursing.
Yeah.
Because the compensation's pretty great. And then, you get to see the whole world too. So.
Well, we're going to have to bring you back when you get your degree done, because we want to know your journey beyond this, because you guys got big dreams. We love it. And I think people would be really interested to hear how you guys are going to live that dream beyond where you're at today. I think that's awesome.
Well, and also, the importance of staying relevant within your career choice, because you had to know what's going on in the healthcare world. You had to know what was going on, the changes in your career, so that way you knew to stay relevant, within the nursing field. And that's what you did. And that's amazing. That's not what everyone can do. So, kudos to both of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And going on lines with that, throughout you telling us about your pursuit of education, you and your wife, you kept talking about how you're pursuing the mercy and wanting to deliver care, not because it's a job, but because it's a part of you. That's what's resonating with me when you speak. And so travel is a different beast for people who don't understand it. And for our listeners out there, you could be moving every 13 weeks, but also a traveler, you could be floating. You could be, as a nurse, and you could sometimes you get a little, I hate to say this, a little bit of the grunt work, because you might be getting those last minute admissions or, doing some of the tough work there. So how do you keep that purpose in front of you?
I'll be honest. It's for me, it's pretty easy. And every job that I go into, I keep an open mind, and that would be my advice for any new traveler or an experienced traveler who may have had a bad experience somewhere. If you're walking into a hospital as a traveler, 90% of the time they need you, and they're going to appreciate you being there. There's 10% of the time that you may see some of that jealousy or that envy, but you have to understand that the staff workers who are there obviously have things going on in their lives that are preventing them from becoming travelers. So you just have to keep that open mind, because the patients still need you. And I look at it from, regardless of how many admissions I get, how bad the patients are, I'm getting them at their worst, and they need me at my best. And
that's amazing.
Ultimately, I wear, you almost have to wear a mask when you go to work sometimes. And I'll tell my patients, they'll be very apologetic sometimes. I'm so sorry, I know you're busy. And I'm pretty transparent with them, and I'm like, listen, if I saw you somewhere else, you'd probably invite me over for dinner. You would be a completely different person. It is okay. I have you at your worst. You're going to get me at my best, and this is my best even outside of here. And that's just how you have to be, especially as a traveler, because you are going to be working with different people and working with different cultures, and the patients understand. So we just have to be there for them. You know what I mean? Ultimately, at the end of the day.
Yes, and I think I just found our next slogan for a T-shirt, because that was amazing. That's beautiful.
Shane, that's great advice. So if you're talking, if we were talking to a person thinking about getting into traveling, that's a heck of a piece of advice right there. So you've done how many assignments off the top of your head?
Well, every 13 weeks for about 6 years. I could probably do the math for you, but I've done a lot. You know what I mean? One of my best though was I loved California. When we got to California, we were working 2 jobs out there actually, at the same time. And Folsom was a wonderful place. But I don't know, I've done a lot.
So looking back at those 6 years, and California included, what's the most memorable assignment, and when you look back on and say that this was an assignment that impacted me? Either it was a great one and I learned so much, or it wasn't so great but I made such an impact to my patients, or something that just sticks with you. If you think about, if you had to sum it up in your book of Shane that's coming out soon after you finish your degree, what would you look back and say, this was my most memorable assignment, and why?
I've probably got 2 actually.
Great.
One was when we were in Hackensack, New Jersey. I love that place. It was a wonderful place to work. We were right across from Manhattan. We could see the skyline. We were in the city every week. But I had a patient who was, he was terminal, and it was was sad. And he had spoken to me the first day that I had him as a patient, and he said that one of the things that bothered him the most was that people stopped smiling and laughing around him because of how sick he was. And it really bothered him, and it really bothered me, because I was like, as a healthcare provider, we believe in a holistic approach, and laughter is a part of that. Laughter is healing. Yeah. And so later on that day, I came back, and when I came in, we were, I had some music playing, and because I borrowed a CD player from the unit, and I took it in there, and we were playing some music, just soft music, and it just brought this smile to his face. And his mother was there, sweet little thing from Germany, and we danced. And he teared up, and he thanked me so much and told me that he had not seen his mom smile like that, and he hasn't smiled like that in so long. And it was just, I was just being goofy, just trying to cheer him up, and not really thinking much about it. And it impacted them so much. She ended up going home, making some roasted homemade almonds, brought him back to the hospital. She was wonderful. But anyway, it really made his day. And I think about him every single time I think about having a bad day, you know what? This is why we're here. Yeah. Right. Wow. It's for that patient care, that one-to-one understanding. Yeah. So that would be a job that truly impact a lot of I guess the soul searching you do as a nurse. And looking at another job, though, from a personal perspective, when we were out in California, it was April Fool's Day, 2014, actually, when I met another traveler. Now, I've met a lot of travelers, don't get me wrong, and I'm friends with a lot of them, but I met another traveler who I consider a brother today. He has become a part of my family, and he still lives in California. We talk every day. Actually, he was our roommate out there for about a year and a half. And so we became such good friends, and just, I don't know, that's one of the things that you do, you know what I mean? He's probably closer to me than a lot of the friends that I grew up with. And so that's something that is really special to me too, is the networking and the friendship that you can make along the way. And he and I work on inventions in our side time. So we're doing, a lot of big things, hopefully.
Am I going to see you on Shark Tank?
I know, right? Well, I got to get the business first. They won't let me come on there with an idea. I've tried it. They said, no, you got to build something. You got to start a business. We want a business. So I was like, okay, we're trying. But yeah, I don't know. I've got a dozen stories. You'd have to bring me back for another segment, probably.
Oh, yes. You're coming back. You're coming back. Yes. You're definitely coming back. We need to let you continue on with your beach adventure and get that degree. We'll bring you back though, and so you can tell us more stories for sure.
You might have your own series if you're not careful.
I'm good, man. Bring me in. We'll call it the Shane series.
I love it.
I'm just playing.
I'm not. I love it. We're wrapping up here, and what we do, our whole point of Cardium and what we love about travelers and what we want to hear from them is the whole purpose and why we do what we do in the healthcare field, and what everyone does, the reason why we do everything, our purpose. And so this is the big moment. This is where I want to hear, or Matt and I want to hear, what's your why?
Okay. When I was a little boy, I was diagnosed with a rare hemorrhaging and kidney disorder, and spent a lot of time in and out of the hospitals. At one point, I think I was 190 to 200 pounds, and I was like 4 or 5 years old. It was just, I was failing. My organs were failing, multiple blood transfusions, just all kinds of stuff going on. And I remember how great the healthcare workers to me when I was growing up. They would come and go, and it wasn't just the healthcare workers. It was just hospital staff in general. But my nurses were great. The doctors were always great. And I had this one particular person who would come in, and they would play Candyland and just take time out of their day to play Chutes and Ladders and all kinds of stuff with me when I was a kid. And beside me was this little boy, and he was terminal. And they gave him a good prognosis, and he was going home. And while he was going home, I remember watching him walk into my room. I don't remember all the details because I was about 5 years old, but I can remember seeing him come in with a patch over his eye, his balloon, and his flowers. And he brought him in, and he gave me a hug. And he and I were friends. And he sat him down on the table, and he said, I get to go home today, but I know that you may not get to, because he had a better prognosis than I did. And he went home, and later in life I found out that he passed away a week later. And And so it was just super sad to me, but the care that I had received was just exceptional. And so as I got older, I was going back and forth and kind of nursing I'd come into and I'd come out of, and I'd come into and I'd come out of with my ideas of thinking of what I wanted to do. And then I finally took the plunge when I met my wife, because I thought, this is where we can truly make a difference. And it doesn't matter where you are, nursing is nursing.
Yeah.
And you get that one-to-one interaction with that patient, and it's 8 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours a day where you're making a true difference. And the care that we give to those patients makes all the difference on how their day is in and out, regardless of their prognosis, regardless of how they feel. What we do makes a difference internally and externally for that patient. So that's a big reason, big driving force for what got me into healthcare. Now, there's multiple reasons for why I've stayed, and my wife and I have been able to travel and have good careers, and I will tell you this. At one point, I was kind of down, thinking, man, nursing is just brutal, right? You're on your feet all the time, and it's just really hard work. And then you have those moments where you look back and you think, wait a minute, I made a difference here and I made a difference there. And when my father got sick, he was terminal. And I was so thankful for the knowledge that I had gained over the years to be able to provide the care to him, that I don't think if I would have picked any other field, it would have ever been as rewarding as nursing has for me, especially travel nursing, because I've learned so much from so many different people everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the why for me was probably because of the care that I had received growing up so many times in the hospital, that it's just kind of driven me to be able to return that and to give that back.
That's beautiful. And I think you're doing that, and probably tenfold, and that's amazing. And I think that probably all the patients that have met you are probably pretty blessed, because I know that I'm touched and blessed just to have met you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. It's noble cause, man. And that's I think that we've heard that today, and it's a great way to cap it off. I don't think anything Sonny and I could say could cap it off better. And we really do appreciate your time, and we appreciate what you're doing out there, and the families and those patients appreciate it too. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys got to get to the beach. We've got to get on the road. We're not going to the beach, and we're going to wrap it up with you today. So thank you again, Shane, for joining us. Thank you. And we'll have you back on an episode in the future. Okay.
Absolutely.
Deal.
Thank you. Have fun.
Thank you, Shane. All right. That's going to wrap it up for today's podcast. We'd love to hear from you, so please drop us a review and let us know your thoughts on today's topic or anything else you'd like to discuss. Sonny, we'll be back.
Okay, thanks.
You've been listening to Cardium from Aureus Medical with your hosts, Sonny and Matt. We're the podcast that gets to the heart of travel healthcare. To subscribe, access show notes, or to learn more, visit cardiumpodcast.com. CARDIUM podcast.com. Or wherever you're listening, be sure to rate us, review, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.